All right, one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Monday morning from Lutz's Automotive Traffic Center. A couple things to report. Accident at 262 and Garner's Ferry Road. Another one at I-77 northbound at Garner's Ferry. And lastly at I-77 southbound at Fort Jackson Boulevard. Today's high going to be 99, heat index of 109 with a chance for a pop-up storm. Tomorrow high of 92 and a high of 90 on Wednesday with chance of storms in the afternoon for both those days as well. It's traffic and weather. Let's Automotive Traffic Center here on the early game. Oh, 9 o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you, navigating through another week, another couple days closer to kicking off college football. Only 41 days, Jack. Only 41 long days until we get there.
Here's another way to put it. I think we're, less than 5 weeks away now from the start of the season? I mean,
so less than, well, are we counting week 0?
I don't know. I saw something on Twitter. I think from On3 because they do the counter every single Saturday. I think it's supposed to be probably from week 0. I would imagine.
Yeah. So if we're counting week 0, then yes, less than 5 because that would put us 30. Yeah. 3 days.
I can't.
No, hold 30. It's messing me up because South Carolina plays on Sunday. We'd be 33 days away from week 0.
Yeah.
41 days away from South Carolina playing. 40 days away from the full slate of that first Saturday, Lee Corso's final game day, all those kind of things. So there's we're under 50, which is, I think, significant, right? I feel like that 100 to 50 takes forever, and some may say 50 to 0 takes even longer, but you've at least cleared the hurdle of the first half of the 100 days countdown.
We're getting to the point now where we're going to be saying we can taste this. It's getting close. We are almost at the end of July here, and once that comes, once August starts, it's really football season at that point.
And media days last week is a tease in a lot of ways, right? Because you get everybody in one place, coaches, players, all this kind of stuff. We're talking about the season, talking about this. We got our projections and all SEC teams, which we'll get into here in just a moment, and then it goes back to nothing. At least for the SEC. Now, again, we have the Big Ten, the ACC, and all those conferences doing their media days this week. But from the SEC, it goes from everything happening last week to a hard stop this week. Really, until you get into camp starting in a couple weeks. There's not a whole lot of news coming out of the SEC between now and then. So again, it's almost kind of it plays with you a little bit, right? It gets you excited, and then boom, it stops again.
It does, and luckily for us, we'll have stuff coming up. Next week, we'll probably be a lot more busy, just because this is probably the last week of the year where it's not super busy in terms of football and things going on. Next week, we'll have Burries with Beamer.
Is it next week?
Yeah, it's next Monday, the 28th.
Okay, all right.
So a week from today, and then you got. I'm assuming. There hasn't been a schedule released yet, which I feel is a little odd, but there will probably be media day with all the players and all the coaches sometime next week, probably the day before camp gets going. So things are coming, and that's good for us. And, it's good to continue talking season, even though I think we're all ready for the real season to start here soon.
Absolutely. Only 41 days away from it. It was a very important weekend for South Carolina on a lot of fronts, which we'll get into here in just a moment. But it is 9 o'clock, and as always, got to kick things off with our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get and hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. We'll get to the media poll in just a second, but Friday night, we got the long-awaited commitment, or recommitment, I guess, that everybody's been anxiously on the edge of their seat for, as Landon Duckworth does indeed recommit to South Carolina after, and I looked this up the other day, it was August of 23 when he committed to South Carolina the first time. That would have been prior to the start of his sophomore year of high school out there at Jackson in Alabama, and I remember then everybody kind of saying, again, Wes and Chris will cover this stuff closely, like, man, that's a really early commitment. Anything can happen between now and, theoretical signing day in 2025, which seemed like light years away at that point in time. So he commits to South Carolina, starts getting a lot more interest. When you kind of look at his offers list, the Georgias, the Oregons, the Penn States, Alabama's, teams like that just kind of flooded in after he made that commitment to South Carolina. And understandably, he's like, hey, I'm going to open this back up. I'm going to look around, see what my options are. And fortunately for South Carolina, they never strayed too far off course, stayed right there in contention, and came down to them at Auburn on Friday night, and Duckworth picked the Gamecocks.
This is why you don't give up on a commit that you have that ends up decommitting, reopens their commitment. Because, again, these are, at the time for Landon Duckworth, going into his sophomore year, he's probably what, like 50, he's on the verge. He's turning 16 years old that year. If he's not 16 already,
you're 15 or 16 typically as a sophomore in high school. So yeah, and again, he had not gotten the full scope of interest nationally at that point in time.
Yeah.
It seems like he very much jumped on South Carolina as, hey, one of the bigger teams that was interested in him. But again, then everybody else starts courting, and you're like, hey, wait a minute, let me explore my options here, which I get. And a lot of times, I feel like when you have somebody that decommits, it's hard to get them back in, because a lot of times decommitments come from like, well, I just feel like I've got a better offer somewhere else or better opportunity somewhere else, and that decommitting is saying, hey, I'm leaving you guys behind. This was very much like, hey, I guess I like what we have here. Let me see what else is out there. I may come back. And again, it's not over yet. We still have 3-4 more months before pen meets paper for signing day, but you feel good about this one because they've stayed right there in the entire process.
And again, South Carolina's done a great job of remaining on, Duckworth's tail, of making sure, like, hey,
that's a good one, Duckworth's tail.
Yeah. We're still fully interested in you, and we want you to come to South Carolina. And props to the recruiting staff, Shane Beamer, et cetera, the coaches. Apparently Mike Shula has been very much on Duckworth since he became the OC, and that's something you read on Gamecock Central. You see that, and that's good to hear, and that they make him a priority. And look, South Carolina is going to need a quarterback when the day does come, when Lenore Sellers moves on to the NFL, whether it's this year or after this year or in 2026. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that, but Duckworth seems like a really nice option to have for the future. And like you said, only a few more months till it's pen to paper.
And assuming that he stays, committed to South Carolina, does sign with them, and let's just say Sellers has a phenomenal year and goes off to the NFL, you're putting yourself in a really good spot next year. Now, again, star ratings don't mean everything, and we've seen plenty of 4- and 5-star guys that end up not amounting to what we thought they would. But the more of those kind of guys you have in a room, the better your chances of finding success are. And if your quarterback room going into next year is Aaron Nolan, Landon Duckworth, and Cutter Woods, you feel pretty good that whoever's going to win the battle out of that room is probably going to be a pretty good player.
No, absolutely. And the fact that they were able to get a quarterback commit, I know this happens all the time, but, a lot of South Carolina's commits lately have been obviously in-state commits and stuff, and they've done a really good job of bringing in guys from other regions in this country. Obviously, we've seen in the DMV area. Now we're seeing it in a state like Alabama, where, again, Auburn, the home state team, was very much in on Duckworth. They were the finalist besides South Carolina. And so for Duckworth to end up committing or recommitting to South Carolina, I think just says a lot about the culture and where things are right now with South Carolina and the thing that Shane Beamer is building here with the Gamecocks going into his 5th year.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we talk about the importance of winning the state within the state first, which again, Carolina does a really good job of that. But yeah, we can go out there and you can grab these high-profile guys from other reaches around the country, particularly hotbeds like the state of Alabama. That's just another feather in the cap. What's been a long string of good recruiting for Beamer and company. And when you look at, and I brought this up last week when I was talking to some of my buddies in Athens, I did a radio hit for them. They were obviously asking about Lenora Sellers, and I said this is kind of uncharted territory for South Carolina football going into a season. They've never had a quarterback that's thought of this highly. Yeah, there was hype around Spencer Rattler, but not to this degree where we're talking like a Heisman favorite, first-round draft pick, and all those kind of things. And I feel like not only from the momentum standpoint of what this 2025 team's going to be, but the appeal to South Carolina to these other quarterbacks is like, hey, Sellers can go there and do that and potentially launch his way into being a first-round draft pick. Why can't I do that too? I think what Sellers is doing, or has done and will do over the course of hopefully this upcoming season as well, is make this place even more inviting. Because again, South Carolina doesn't have a rich history of like the most successful quarterbacks overall. They've had plenty of good ones, but not always like the top-notch, superstar, high-end quarterback recruits, right? Like this could be opening a door to that becoming more of the norm.
If you see Lenore Sellers in New York City at the end of the year at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, whether he wins it or not, if he's there and you see I'm sure he'll have like a Gamecock pin on his suit or whatever, and you see that and he's representing South Carolina, it's like, who wouldn't want to come here? You know, that only sells it even more. Even if he has another great year, he'll go on to be an NFL draft pick pretty high, and you hear him called from the University of South Carolina. It's like all that stuff sells itself when he's having success.
Yep.
And so you want him to do well in order for people to come here. But I think South Carolina, regardless, like even if he didn't have the best season in the world, didn't set the world on fire, people will still come here just because I think they believe in what's going on. And if South Carolina has another great season, it makes it a lot easier to be like, yeah, let's come here.
Let's be honest. If South Carolina has a great season this year, I think a lot of that's going to do with the Lenore Sellers. You know what I mean? Like if we're talking about just an average game manager type of quarterback, I don't think we're thinking as highly of this team going into the year.
No, definitely not. I mean, where would this team be without Lenore's is the biggest question. But they're doing a good job right now, and we'll see what happens. But this is a really big commit for the Gamecocks to get with Landon Duckworth.
And again, that's a commitment coming on Friday night and National Signing or Early Signing Day. It's National Signing Day. Can we just say that? It's not Early Signing Day anymore. Ugh. It's National Signing Day at this point. That coming up in mid-December. Is it still the week right before Christmas like last year?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm trying to remember. I feel like it fluctuates a little.
It was like the Wednesday, the week prior to Christmas. I want to say like the 17th or 18th or something last year.
It's around that time. It's always hard to remember the dates because then you got.
Well, they moved it last year. They moved it deeper in December.
Yeah, I mean, because it used to be like that first few days in December.
It used to be the like Wednesday after conference championship weekend.
Yeah, and then you got. I mean, I'm looking on like Wikipedia or just Google. They have February 4th as National Signing Day, but there's so many.
Nobody now that day to emphasize how much things have changed in college football.
It's crazy.
That day came and passed this past February, and I don't think most of us realized it. I think at some point during the day, I was like, "Oh, hey, today's National Signing Day." But again, nobody signs on that day anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think it was. I'm looking on Gamecock Central just to see. Because we'll do pre-writes for all these guys that do sign.
Yeah.
And it was December 4th last year. So it's pretty early in December. I'm sure they're moving it back, but it's always kind of that first week right after the season ends. It's like, all right, regular season's over. Now it's National Signing Day. Get ready for that.
Yeah, well, we know the college football calendar is screwed up in a lot of ways. And
many ways.
That's just one of them.
And it's continuing to change. So,
all right, South Carolina earned a lot of great accolades as a team and as individuals on Friday. Coming away from SEC Media Days, we will dive into that coming up next as the Export rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Monday on the Game. It's all right here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I remind you all the time, but I'm happy to remind you again, you always need to be on the lookout for things going on around your home that may look a little off. Things like cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors and windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these problems with your home, you could have serious foundation issues. That's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com. They'll send a professional to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live without any concerns going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyred and Jack Veltri with you here on your Monday on the Game. Friday afternoon is why Bill and I were on the air. We finally got the SEC media poll as well as the preseason all SEC teams announced. Jack, did we both have South Carolina 6th in our poll? Did I remember that correctly?
So
I know we compared it.
You had them, didn't you have them 5th? Am I mistaken on that?
Let me
I had them 7th.
I had them. No, I had them fifth. Okay. Yeah. So our average would have been sixth if we added them together and divided. But we were both right around that same area as they come in fifth in the media poll after Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. They're one spot ahead of Florida. Ole Miss behind Florida and A&M as well. But I feel like in anything between like fifth and like ninth, I could have realistically seen, because we talk about how open and fluid the middle part of the conference is, and the difference between being like 5th and 10th in the conference is very, very small. You're talking about 9-3 to like 8-4, right? So anything is possible, kind of in that middle part of the conference. South Carolina's kind of seen, at least in the opinions of the media, as the higher end of that right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are so many good teams in this conference, and it's good to see South Carolina in fifth, I think. I think that's a good place for them. Again, I had them in seventh. You had them in fifth, so it averages out to sixth. But I think they're probably not as good as LSU, Bama, Georgia, and Texas right now, but I think they're certainly just as good, if not better, than all the teams that they're ahead of in the preseason poll here.
Well, I think we would have gone into last season saying, well, we don't think they're better than LSU. We don't think they're better than Alabama or teams like that. And, well, lo and behold, they came darn close to winning both those games. So, and perception is so hard to figure out right now, right? And that's what made voting on not only the media poll, but even some of the all SEC teams hard, because we don't know everything about these teams. We know less now. We know less going into a season now more than we ever have before because of how much rosters turnover and all those kind of things with the portal and all that kind of stuff. It's easy to assume that, okay, Texas and Georgia probably going to once again be at the top of the conference, and Kentucky and Mississippi State probably going to be at the bottom, but we don't know that for sure because a lot has changed for all these teams in the offseason.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's so hard to predict. And, again, with South Carolina, we're expecting them to have a good year and stuff. But, again, we've said it so many times now. I mean, they have lost a lot of pieces. And so it's easy to just judge these teams based on what they did last year. But I think that's such an irrelevant factor in how you're going to – I mean, it's part of how you vote on teams, don't get me wrong. But
sure.
It should not – it's tough for it to be the main reason when you just don't know who's who. You don't know what – like teams look so different now compared to 10 years ago before the portal became what it is now, and guys transferring all the time.
And let's be honest, a lot of why Carolina's thought of so highly is because of Lenore Sellers.
Yeah.
If you insert generic, random – average quarterback into South Carolina's team, then they're probably somewhere around like 10th or 11th. I feel like, considering all they lost a year ago, all the draft picks off defense, Sellers is propping this team up a lot in the minds of a lot of people. Now, again, that doesn't mean you're not going to have other guys to step up and put in great performances this year, but based on the perception that we know now, the proven production, it's really Sellers carrying a lot of this weight.
It is. And speaking of Lenore Sellers, he and Dylan Stewart were named to the All-SEC first team, and South Carolina had one other with Jalen Kilgore making the second team. I know we've talked about it a lot last week with Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning. We figured those three guys would be representing the All-SEC teams. Are we surprised at all? Lenore Sellers' first team?
Yes, actually I am. And now I voted him second team on mine.
Same here.
I think, like, tools-wise, what he has around him, I think Nussmeier is in the best position to succeed, and he's thought of as, your prototypical pro-type of quarterback, and I thought that's the way that a lot of people were going to go, but it seems like everybody's excited about what Sellers brings to the table, and lo and behold, gets the most votes for quarterback.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, the hype is real going into this year, and again, we both had Nussmeier, did you have Nussmeier?
Yeah, I had him as my first.
Okay. So we both had Garrett Nussmeier first team.
And I'm pretty sure I had Arch Manning on there too, just as third team.
Pretty sure I had him as well there. But yeah.
We voted on a lot of things. It's hard to keep up with.
It is hard to keep up with, man. I can't even tell you who I voted for on other special teams.
I was trying to take some screenshots as I was going along so I could remember it.
Well, you can download it.
You can download it?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you can download it, say it was like a PDF.
Okay, yeah, I should have done that. Oh,
well. But look, first team for Lenore Sellers. For us, it might be a little bit surprising, but again, so many people buy into the hype. That's why you see South Carolina fifth in the preseason poll because they expect South Carolina to win 10 games. And when you have a quarterback like Lenore Sellers out there,
Sure.
you're always going to have a fighting chance.
And I say from a surprise standpoint of like, it's not that I don't think he can be the best quarterback in the SEC. I just didn't know if that's what the perception everybody else had of him was at this point in time. I know everybody thinks that he's good, but again, I feel like Nussmeier has more to be successful around him right now than what Sellers does. Where again, I don't think Nussmeier's having to do as much of the heavy lifting, but maybe that's what endears people about Sellers because, again, you know, the 6 games they won to close out the regular season last year, a lot of that had to do with Sellers just making plays that he wasn't able to make early on in the season.
Yeah, and he grew as a quarterback, and we saw I don't even think we saw the full potential of what he can do. I mean, he was great at the end of last year, but I feel like there's so much more he could do. Like some of the reads, you know, he could probably do a better job of, you know, staying a little bit more in the pocket and making some of these throws, but hopefully his receivers are able to get open and stuff. But he's always going to have the tools that you need to go out there and be successful. Like he can scramble, he can, you know, avoid pressure in the pocket and step up and make throws. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do this year. And it should be a lot of fun watching him. If he does what people expect him to do, he's going to be accomplishing a lot of good things this season.
Again, as you mentioned, Dylan Stewart also making first-team defense when it comes to the defensive line. No surprise there. And then Jalen Kilgore coming in when it comes to the third team with second team when it comes to defense there.
Yeah.
So obviously good accolades for those guys. And again, when you're talking about a guy like Kilgore who is kind of falling in line with this, you know, year-over-year thing of at least one defensive back positioning themselves to get drafted the upcoming season, Jalen Kilgore is putting himself in that position right now. And again, we'll see how they use him, you know, at traditional safety, whether it's continue to be at that nickel corner spot, and, you know, how important he's going to be on the back end of this defense with so many questions up in the first and second levels.
Yeah, and the good thing for South Carolina is I know these preseason accolades don't really mean too much, especially to the players and stuff, but the fact that South Carolina is, as much as we talk about this defense losing as much as they did last year, they also have 2 All-SEC guys returning. So you're having Dylan Stewart for 2 more years. You're having Jalen Kilgore at least for 1 more year. Those are good pieces to start building around. And then, you know, South Carolina went into the portal, got a lot of different guys. They also did a great job in high school recruiting, bringing in some guys, even JUCO. So as long as these pieces are able to develop properly around the stars that you have,
sure,
we're talking about a defense that maybe not as good as last year, but potentially still pretty good.
And being on a preseason All-SEC team certainly doesn't guarantee success. But again, it goes back to perception, right? And if you are on one of these 3 teams, you're thought of to be one of the, if not the best at your respective position group. And again, it seems like the opinion of the conference that Sellers is the best quarterback, that Stewart is one of the best edge players, because again, there's multiple ones on even the first team there, and then the Jalen Kilgore is thought of in that top half, or I don't know what top, I guess like 10% of DBs in the conference, which is obviously high accolades considering how great defense in this conference is. So, you know, there's kind of your key pieces that, again, this team will really be built around. And if all 3 of those guys are having really good, successful seasons, that should probably mean this team as a whole is successful.
Exactly. That's what you want to see. So, again, we're not surprised to see these guys on there at all. But, again, this should be a team that is going to be one that is very interesting to watch as the season moves along.
Coming up next, a conference has dropped part of its name, as well as the WNBA stirring some controversy out of their All-Star game this past weekend. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Monday on the Game.
This just in, AAA Heating and Air continues to dominate the Midlands with the best HVAC replacement options around. With guaranteed financing, 12 months, no payments or interest, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty, they are setting the standard for new system installations. But did you also know they have great deals on repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're short on cash, AAA Heating and Air can still help you out. They offer up to 12-month payment plans with no credit check required on repairs. So all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't delay. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Whether it's a replacement or repair, they've got the deal that you need.
Welcome back in, Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Beltry with you on your Monday here on the game. Jack has made me aware of a new name for the
The AAC, the American Athletic
I say,
Conference.
I don't know what to call it now that they're changing the name, but what the artist formerly known as the American Athletic Conference, which has been around since 2013 after the original Big East disbanded, is now dropping athletic from their name. This is per Brett McMurphy of On3, and they will now simply be known as the American Conference. They also have their first ever ambassador, Soar the Eagle.
Like a mascot.
Like a mascot that is like a Eagle superhero football player that has the logo on his chest. Do they need to do this? Like, was this necessary?
No, because when we look at the abbreviation, it's going to be the AC. So
The AC.
yeah, the air conditioners.
Yeah, I guess. I will say it did get a little confusing sometimes when you were, because we called it the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, and sometimes you get a little tongue-tied talking about the AAC and the ACC. So at least you drop one letter to maybe avoid that confusion. I feel like most people kind of called it the American anyway, if you just didn't use the the first letters. So I mean, okay, I don't know if this changes anything. I will say, and I was curious, and he notes it later on in the article, they did finally drop the Power 6 thing, because remember because the term Power 5 really came along with the advent of the college football playoff, which started, of course, in 2014. And the Big East, if you remember, back in the BCS days, they had a tie-in. Like the Big East champion automatically got to go to a BCS bowl game. Famously, Louisville beat Florida in that Sugar Bowl in the 2012 season. West Virginia, represented the Big East a couple times in some Sugar Bowls and stuff like that. So they were seen as kind of on that same level with the SECs, the Big Tens, the ACCs, Big 12s, Pac-12, and all that kind of stuff. And then when they disbanded and you had teams like kind of split all over, the American was never seen in the same way. And again, we kind of drew that line with the first college football playoff in the years since of what's power and what was deemed as Group of Five. And the American didn't like that. And they've been kind of trying to push this, hey, we're the Power 6 since then. Now, they got Cincinnati in once, which is good for them. They got beaten pretty thoroughly by Alabama, but they've at least stopped trying to push that. Which
is good, because there's a definite separate, difference between the big conferences, and then you have the AC now.
Sure. Well, and I think for a period of time, when you looked at some of the schools they had in their conference, then you say, okay, I can see why you would make that kind of argument. Houston, Cincinnati, Louisville was never a part of or was Louisville in there in the first year before going to the ACC? I think they may have been in it for a short period of time.
They were in the Big East, though.
Yeah, but did they? Were they ever a part of the AAC, or did they just go ahead and go to the ACC?
I'm gonna look this up to see. That's a good question. They did. They spent one season in there. So 2014, the first year.
Okay, so at least for a period of time, you had some of those games with cachet where you could say, okay, all right, if you want to make an argument that you're seen in the same realm, okay, but I'm going to read you off the list of teams currently in the AC, the American Conference. Charlotte, East Carolina, FAU, Memphis, North Texas, Rice, Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, UAB, USF, and UTSA. Now, Tulane and Memphis are seen as two of the better G5 programs, or also Army and Navy are also in it now as well. But none of these other schools carry that same kind of weight. So your argument is kind of dead on arrival at that point.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, these are definitely smaller schools that we're talking about. They're not when you think of the big brand names, especially in a sport like college football, you don't really think of these. And that's why they are in the group of five or
group of six, whatever we call it.
Whatever you call it. You got the Power 4 and you got the group of 5 or group of 6. So I think it is the group of 6 now. So again,
we don't really know what to define the Pac-12 as.
The Pac-12 is, I think they're a group of
they are
conference now.
They are.
Even because of the schools they have in there.
Yeah, technically because of the grandfather clause, they're still seen as power.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, they're not. In fact, Ole Miss, did you know this year Ole Miss plays Washington State as their power out of conference game?
Yeah, they are at home. It's like week 4 or something.
Yeah.
So
because again, every SC team has to play at least one non-conference power.
And Washington State needs opponents. Same with Oregon State.
And again, Washington State still counts as that. So Ole Miss kind of getting off lucky there. But yes, the American Athletic Conference, now simply the American going forward. Again, doesn't really change my thoughts on it. But okay, if they feel the need to do that, sure. Controversy over the weekend for a lot of people with the WNBA All-Star Game, where the athletes wore the "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirts prior to the game. And unfortunately, especially when we talk about women's sports, I feel like a lot of people kind of jump on these things without fully understanding what's being argued here, what's trying to be accomplished. And unfortunately, we saw an example of that this past weekend as well, where people kind of jump on they don't deserve this, don't deserve that, without really getting what they're trying to say.
Yeah, and here's from what we understand what they're arguing. You know, they want more percent of the league revenue, right?
Yes,
so
correct.
Here's context. So the NBA, which keep these numbers in mind, by the way, the NBA made roughly over $11 billion last season. So in 2023-24, they get 49 to 51% of the league revenue, which seems fair for that much money you're making. The WNBA, which operated at a $40 million loss last year, and keep in mind, they are subsidized by the NBA, helping them out, keeping them afloat. They get 9 to 10% of the revenue share from their 2020 CBA deal.
The players do.
The players do.
Yeah.
So that is what they're arguing for, the fact that they deserve more, which I can totally understand. But at the same time, the facts are the facts. The WNBA has never been a profitable league, and we'll see if that changes here with the new media rights deal that's coming next year with Disney, and that's supposed to be a ton of money up for grabs there. So hopefully that will change something. But right now, that's what they're fighting for.
And you're right. This is a league that has not been able to turn a profit up to this point. However, their new media rights deal is worth $2.2 billion over 11 years, which nets out to about $200 million in revenue for the league per year, or at least with payouts, which is about 4 or 5 times more than what they're making as of right now. And again, you see the ability to turn a profit on the horizon, which is what the players are arguing, like, hey, we're the reason why the interest is up. We're the reason why this TV contract is happening. You can say, okay, it's only because Caitlin Clark. That may be true in part, but she's still a player. So all the players are represented by the Players Union or the Players Association here, which is where this argument comes from. And, you know, when you look at all the other major sports league, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, and NHL, all of their CBAs have players getting about 50% of the revenue, right around that same number. And I don't even think the WNBA Players Association is pushing for 50%. They're just pushing for more, right? Because, again, you see the opportunity for the profits start being turned in the future, and understandably, they want a piece of that. Like, I get it. But, again, I feel like people kind of look at these kind of things and jump on them on all the negatives without kind of fully understanding what exactly is being argued here.
Yeah, and again, I think people look at the fact that, oh, well, the WNBA operated at a loss last year. They're getting support from the NBA, and they see that, and that's like, okay, why should you be getting paid more when, quite frankly, you're probably already getting paid a lot, you know, more than the average person, and you know you expect to be getting paid more when your league isn't generating any profit. That's I think where people are kind of hung up on this, and
they're never going to have the same salaries as like NBA players or anything like that.
And again, like you said, they're not. I don't think it's. I think it'd be crazy to expect them to get 50% of league revenue.
Yeah, they're probably not going to get that, but something more
like 25 would be.
I've seen 40% thrown out. There's something more
something higher. I think,
because again, as the league revenue, as the amount of money the league can make goes up, it would make sense that the same thing be done for the players. Again, that's the arguments being made here. I'm not telling you, which way to feel about it necessarily, but again, I see a lot of people, they kind of jump on the, oh, well, they just lost $40 million, they deserve nothing kind of thing, which isn't the way to go about thinking about it, in my opinion.
No, because there's money being made. I mean, we see it with, and Caitlin Clark is such a huge part of why the WNBA has so much more interest right now. And again, I think it's crazy that there's so much divide and jealousy amongst the players because if you just embraced her for the great talent she is, you could see that the money you will be rewarded.
Yeah.
You know, if she's doing well, the WNBA is doing well. So there's that, but also just the fact of like, again, the media rights deal kicking in next year. Hopefully that does help them turn a bit more money and, you know, they all make a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to feel about the T-shirts over the weekend. I get it, but it's also like, you know, a lot of people don't understand that.
It's a place where you get all of your best talent because it is the All-Star game together in one place. So I get it. Also, we have another All-Star game where just nobody plays defense. If you tuned into this, it was what, 151 to 131?
Yeah.
You know, all All-Star games are the same, I guess.
Exactly. It's just, I mean, I didn't watch it. I'm sure there are a lot of people that didn't watch it. And again, I just wonder, you know, I get what they were going for, but I wonder if they got their message across. You know what I mean? So
negotiations ongoing. I believe October is the deadline to figure that out. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Extra point. Tyler and Jack on your Monday on the game.
deep to right. Over toward the line, Acuna's got it. Tagging from second is Bebas. Whoa! They got him! Are you kidding me?
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Monday here on the game. That was on Friday night over at Truist Park. Ron Acuna Jr. Guns out Orbit Vivas of the New York Yankees at third base on a double play in the third inning. About the only highlight of the weekend, but nevertheless a cool play for Acuna as the Braves return, or both teams returned from the All-Star break, but the rest of the weekend didn't really go the Braves' way.
Yeah, let me just say that throw was
Were you there for this? Did you go to this game?
So I went to Saturday's game.
Okay.
I'm glad I went to Saturday because I would have been pissed if I went to Friday's game. But, yeah, that was a great throw by Ronald Acuna, just one of the stars of this league. And, yeah, great throw. I don't know why Vivas didn't slide, but, hey, whatever.
Well, put yourself in his head, right?
Yeah.
You think there is no way that throw is going to be a frozen rope all the way from right field. Like, where he didn't have, like, it was right in the glove.
Yeah.
Right in the glove and into the back.
I mean, that is true, but I need to see the replay on that. But I do wonder, third base coach waving his arms down to slide, or you know what? I mean, that's on the third base coach too, who's seeing the play. Because I mean, Vivas' guy's back turned towards where the ball's being thrown, so it's not like he can see that's fully what's going on there.
Maybe he was just showing shock that it was coming right for him, or because it was Alvarez that was playing third base. That again, just really didn't have to move. Ball went in his glove, boom, tagged him
there. So
yeah.
Crazy game, but. As I mentioned, I did go to Saturday's game in Atlanta, and it started out ugly. Yankees down 5-0, and then they go on to win 12-9. And I was sitting 2 rows behind the visitors' bullpen out in left field, and there were a ton of Yankee fans there. Oh my gosh! I mean, you wouldn't even believe it. It did not feel like a Braves home game at times. And when Trent Grisham hits that go-ahead grand slam, I mean, the place went bananas.
Yeah, we're just watching on TV. The "Let's Go Yankees" chants were pretty loud, and that's the unfortunate thing about when you have a team that's kind of dead in the water after the All-Star break is people stop caring. Now, again, when you have a win on Friday night, crazy play like that, I think it ticks people's optimism a little bit. But then when you lose the rest of the series, it's like, oh, okay, just kind of back to reality. Then.
And let's just say this: it was a great crowd on Saturday. Yes, there were a lot of Yankee fans there, but. I mean, it was still a sold-out crowd with a lot of Braves fans there. So, again, the Braves are getting good interest. It's just the team is just not performing well.
And the Braves almost kind of have a built-in fail-safe when it comes to, like, the battery in the area out there because people and baseball's one of those kind of funny sports where I think out of every sport, you're more likely to go to a baseball game to just hang out, even if your team's bad, right? Because you're at the park. There's food there. Baseball's a very much laid back sport where, and again, when you add in all the stuff to do in the battery, that hey, we got nothing to do on Saturday. Let's go to the Braves game, no matter how good or bad they are. I still think that's a thing a lot of people do in Georgia.
Absolutely. I mean, you see that at ballparks around the country. Like, even when the team's awful, people still come and. You have your diehards that want the ownership to sell, and you want the manager fired and whatnot. But I haven't really seen too much of that. I don't think with the Braves. I think people just accept the fact that they're just not having a good season, and you got to move on. I think Snicker's probably going to retire at the end of the year, and then you move on. But the one thing I will say, and I've seen this from some of my friends and colleagues in the industry who are Braves fans, it's Alex Anthopoulos, you got to spend money. You got to spend money to win. And when you're, again, 2021, they won the World Series. You don't bring Freddie Freeman back. That still rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I know Matt Olson's a good Brave, but Freddie was the guy. And then you don't go out here and spend more money consistently and making the right moves to get this franchise where they need to be. I think that's where people have a lot of issues.
Yeah, and again, trade deadline coming up here in a couple of days. We'll see what they decide to do. It seems like maybe some longer-term plays if they do anything. Because, again, this year's kind of...
They got to sell.
Yeah, you can't really do much with this season.
You're, well over 10 games under 500 now. I mean, you're not you're about, I think, 44 and 55 or something like that.
Yeah, it's not worth trying to dig yourself out of the hole this year.
No.
You got to think long term.
Yeah.
I've seen Ozzy, Ozuna, guys like that being talked about as potential trade pieces.
You don't need to do a full rebuild, obviously.
You're not that bad.
No, just I think of the 2016 Yankees. They weren't very good. They weren't awful. They had a lot of older players that they could just sell off, get a lot of young pieces in, and the next year they went to Game 7 of the ALCS. So you could see the same thing here with the Braves. Get rid of some of the guys that maybe have expiring contracts, older guys like Ozuna, Albies. I know he's kind of had
the best year.
He had a good weekend, though. Two homers, but
it's a small sample size.
Yeah, but the point is, I think they're going to be selling, and we'll see what they can get back in return. Hopefully some younger talent.
We'll see what happens. Again, baseball back up and rolling after the All-Star break there. I'll do for hour number 1 of the Extra Point coming up in hour number 2. Jalen Tarter and I will dive into what's going on with the NFL as, hey, next week we actually have some football to talk about. That's coming up next on the Extra Point here on the game. Tyred here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. Are you aware of what Thursday, July the 24th is? Well, it is none other than National Tequila Day. And at Twin Peaks, they know their tequila. Life's too short to not celebrate National Tequila Day with top shelf spirits. You can come on into the lodge and order a tried and true classic like House Margarita for a steal, or kick things up a notch with the Concoro Margarita served over ice with served over an ice ball with a tahine rim. So be sure to get down there and celebrate National Tequila Day. But there's never a bad time at all to go to Twin Peaks, taking in great sports action with TV as far as the eye can see, tons of delicious food, plenty of spirits to your liking, and, of course, those 29-degree draft beers as well. All this and more with our friends at Twin Peaks, right down the street in the Vista. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our head, Jalen Tart, hanging out with me for the next hour. How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Man, good to see you too, man. It's been going great. A lot of weekend madness going on. We had Dustin Poirier retire. The Manny Pacquiao fight that everyone's been talking about, of him wanting to have a rematch with Floyd Mayweather, that ended in the draw. I watched the Yankees and Braves game on Saturday, and I've never seen a collapse like that ever in like baseball, with me being a new fan of it. But the Acuna throw was absolutely insane. Yeah. Insane.
We talked about that at the end of the last hour, kind of one of the few highlights from the weekend as the Braves get the second half of their season rolling there, though, again, the optimism not super high right now. Got to check the fit. What's the T-shirt we're rocking today?
It's just a regular put-on T-shirt, New York. I love New York.
Okay.
Just regular. I wasn't really feeling a whole lot of like, okay, let me figure out what to wear. So I was like, let me just put something simple on today. So yeah.
Because typically you're wearing some kind of music group or artist shirt. How many total shirts of that do you have?
More than I can count on my hands.
Okay.
But I do want to say too, like the coverage that you did in the SEC Media Day, I've listened to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you your flowers, man. You did a phenomenal job with of what you've been able to do. So keep up the good work, bro.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun week. It was a busy week. I think I'm still not fully recovered from it because I still feel pretty exhausted this morning. But yeah, it was nice. It was cool to be back in Atlanta. Again, hometown, and spent a lot of time there, obviously, in my life. But need to stay with the folks, travel back and forth. Traffic wasn't terrible, which I was happy about, maybe because it's summer and there's no kids in school. But I never spent more than like an hour driving to or from the city, which by Atlanta standards is pretty good.
And there was a lot going on in Atlanta, so I was, very concerned of like how bad the traffic was going to be. So yeah.
Yeah, my wife went to the Beyonce concert.
Wow. Okay.
The Friday before, because she did a wraparound. I think she did 4 shows Friday through Monday. Because I was leaving Monday. I saw the people walking to what I think was the final show.
Jesus. I'm glad she had a good time, though.
Yeah, so that was obviously cool. Again, big week in Atlanta last week, as that really kind of gets the ball rolling for football season starting.
Yes.
We're really, I guess now that the game is back, I put the college football video game returning as like point 1. Media days is point number 2. I'm talking about football as a whole here. And then next Thursday, we get the Hall of Fame game, which is point number 3 for me of like, okay, football is back, because then you have NFL preseason starting proper the next week. This is the final week. This week of July the 21st is the final week of 2025 without some form of a college or professional football game being played.
And a lot of people have been buzzing about, Carolina football, the NFL coming back or whatnot, but to see, at the end of the month, the Detroit Lions taking on the Chargers, interested to see what both of these teams are going to bring, knowing that it's a Hall of Fame game, but interested to see what these two teams are going to make out of. Williams, has retired, and now the Chargers have to really figure out what they're going to do now to fill in that hole. But then you look on the other side of it with the Detroit Lions. They had a phenomenal season, and you bring Aiden back, who was out for an injury for the defensive side of the Lions. But the question now looms, can Jared Goff take another level, can step his game up another level with the offense that they had last year, knowing that they came up short of reaching the Super Bowl?
Well, and you're not going to learn anything from the Hall of Fame game. That's a game purely. It's one of those things that you put on because it's football, and then they do the full NBC presentation and all that kind of stuff. So you have it on because it's football, but you're likely watching guys that are trying to make the team, right? And, guys that are trying to make the 53-man roster, and quite frankly, a lot of them will probably end up getting cut before you ever get to the actual season. But again, it's more just kind of the celebration of football itself. Returning, obviously, this year, bigger celebration was Sterling Sharp. Going into the NFL Hall of Fame, first ever Gamecock to have that honor, which that'll obviously be very, very cool to see. But again, it's just more of kind of like the celebration. Hey, guess what? Football's finally back after this long off season.
And a lot of headlines with football also as well, with recruiting and also players from that came from the Carolina program signing signing fully guaranteed contracts.
Yeah, so that was some news from over the weekend that all 5 of the Gamecocks that get drafted did end up signing deals, or at least all of them have signed deals up to this point. Headlined by Nick Eamon-Warry, 4 years, $11 million, including a roughly $5 million signing bonus, being the second-round draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks. Become the first ever 35th overall pick with guaranteed money, with 100% guaranteed money. Excuse me.
That's a big deal. For Nick Eamon-Warry, the player that he is, that's going to be added to that Seahawks defense, who has been really, really solid in their division in the West. But I'm very excited for that new start. Sam Darnold is over there. You get Mike McDonald, who was a first-year head coach. But I'm interested to see now with Eamon-Warry signing this deal, they're putting their faith into him, into making a big impact into this upcoming season.
Yeah, and again, he had the opportunity to be a first-round draft pick. Starks goes in the first round to the Ravens, but very quickly after that, you see Eamon-Warry coming off the board. I'm excited to see him, in that Seattle defense. And he's kind of thought of as more of one of those throwback type of guys that would have kind of fit in that Legion of Boom type of defense roughly a decade ago. So we'll see what he does on the back end of that defense for the Seahawks this upcoming year. Yeah, TJ Sanders signed about a $10.5 million deal with the Bills with about 95% guaranteed. So he'll play, kind of a rotational guy on the interior of their defense. Kyle Kennard signing a $5 million deal for 4 years with the Chargers. Tonka Hemingway signing a $4 million deal with the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Demetrius Knight finalizing a 4-year, $9 million deal with about 80% of that guaranteed with the Cincinnati Bengals over the weekend.
I do like the Knight deal because of the fact that the Bengals needed a lot of help with Trey Hendrickson, who spawned onto the scene, leading the NFL in sacks with 17.5 sacks last year. So I'm interested to see now with Knight being in that linebacker position, how well he play and sustain his level of success, carrying over from the Carolina season, going into this season with the NFL with the Bengals.
Well, he's definitely one of those guys, and Eamon-Warry as well, that's being looked at as a day one type of starter. When you kind of look at what's kind of cycled out of the linebacker room there for the Cincinnati Bengals. So he has the opportunity to come in and make an impact right away. These other guys are, again, kind of looked at as rotational type of pieces that'll certainly play their role. But, again, it's exciting to see guys like Eamon-Warry and Demetrius Knight get those opportunities to be likely everyday starters with their respective teams this upcoming year.
Do you think Kyle Kennard – I personally think Kyle Kennard could potentially work his way into a starting lineup with the Chargers, but they're listing him as the second unit behind Tuli Tupolatu for the Chargers. But I think he has the potential chance to be in that role as well as the season progresses.
He'll get his opportunity. Again, he was not drafted to be that first-in-line kind of guy, so he'll be able to rotate in, again, with Bosa moving on and leaving. There's obviously a hole there when it comes to comes to pass rusher, but they do have a lot of guys in that position room, so it will take Kennard going in there and obviously asserting himself to get more playing time there. But he's going to get his opportunities, that's for sure.
So, honestly, yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what type of impact these players make. But then also, too, is like how they're going to be used throughout the season. But all eyes are going to be on Nick Eamon-Warry, now that he's signing this full-time deal with the Seahawks. And it could potentially make them a contender, not just on the defensive side, on the offensive side, but just in their division and in the conference as well.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly have to see. Again, that's a division that has been competitive a lot over the course of the past decade when you talk about the teams that have come out of it and represented the NFC West. And obviously, I think everybody here locally will be cheering on Nick Eamon-Warry, hoping to see him be successful. And that's the interesting thing when you look at these guys that were drafted from South Carolina, how different all of their stories are. Again, Eamon-Warry, homegrown guy from just up the road, gets thrust into the spotlight right away, pretty much in game number one of his freshman season and never really leaves the field after that and works himself into being one of the best safeties in his respective class. But on the other end of that, you have a guy, Demetrius Knight, who had been around college football forever, had moderate success at a place like Charlotte, but came into Carolina without a ton of fanfare other than the fact that, hey, when you watch this guy's film, he's really fast and really quick, and came in and was a true leader on this defense and a catalyst for why they were so good. And see both those guys get those same type of opportunities is really neat to see. And kind of looping it back to here locally in Carolina, I think shows that you can come here and be successful no matter what your situation is, and we talk about in today's world of college sports where the transfer portal is such a big thing. I think that opens it up, and that this is a recruiting tool. This is something that Coach Beamer, Clayton White can look at and say, hey, look what we did for Kyle Kennard. Look what we did for Demetrius Knight. It doesn't matter how long you've been in college football. You come here, give us one successful year, you go off and live your dreams in the NFL. Like, this is a recruiting tool if I've ever seen one that the Gamecocks can use.
And I was going to tie that into the SEC Media Day where he said that one of the biggest things that players from high school and both transfer portals often say is they want to come to be developed.
Sure.
And I think this is a true example of what you can do, where you can come from being a 3-star or a no-star, and you can be developed the right way to go into the NFL. And it's the same thing with Don Staley and the women's basketball team. The program is surrounded by development to get to the WNBA and to position yourself to play overseas. And like we're seeing now, that's a true testament. It's a true blueprint of what the culture is here in South Carolina at the University of South Carolina.
And looking back to football here, looking up for this upcoming season, that's where a lot of your faith has to lie with this team, right? Because we've talked about it ad nauseum, and we'll continue to talk about it for the next 41 days until the season starts. A lot of this team is unproven, whether it be guys from the high school ranks or guys that have transferred in that just have not done a whole lot in college. This is where you have to say, okay, I believe that this coaching staff is going to develop these guys to the point where they can come in and be successful, and this team can be as good, if not better, than they were a year ago. And again, you look at some of those guys from a season ago that you would say played a whole lot better than people expected them to. Namely, Kennard, who won the Bronco Nagurski Award, is the best edge guy in the entire country. That you hopefully can say, okay, well, that's because of what the staff did with those guys once they got in. And you talk about the same thing with Brownlow Dinley and Okoronkwo and all these other guys that have transferred in, saying, okay, well, I just think that coaching staff's going to be able to make those guys better than they were at whatever their respective prior schools were, where they didn't see the field as much.
And I think that now we're starting to see this trend where we're seeing these rookies sign fully guaranteed contracts, and it's going to be a lot more going into the next season as well, as where we're going to see more players potentially sign fully guaranteed contracts, not just in the first round, but in the second round. And Nicky Miwori was the latest example of that.
Yeah, again, first ever 35th overall pick to have fully guaranteed money when it comes to his first contract. We'll stay with the NFL coming up next. Dan Graziano list overreactions as we head into the 2025 NFL season. We'll see what we think of his hypotheticals that he puts out there. It is the Extra Point, Tyler Head and Jalen Tart along with you on your Monday on the Game. Welcome back in, Extra Point. Tyler Jalen Tart with you on your Monday here on the game. Again, if you're keeping count, only 10 days away from the NFL Hall of Fame game, which starts actual football games being played as talking season slowly comes to an end, but a few more days until we get there. Dan Graziano of ESPN put out his list over the weekend of overreactions, says judging the NFL offseason and overreactions that some people may have as we are getting closer to the season starting. And I want to kind of go through these one by one here and see what we think in terms of what he spit out there, things that people might be thinking going into the upcoming season, starting with number one. All four NFC North teams will make the playoffs, which he lists as an overreaction.
That's a tough one. I think three of them would make it. The Lions, the Bears, and the Vikings. I'm not too high on Jordan Love just yet. I think I have to see him elevate his game with what he has around him. I think the Bears would shock a lot of people with Ben Johnson being at the helm and Caleb, being at the helm at the quarterback.
So you think the Bears are going to make it in over the Packers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
I just think offensively now they're more. It's not so easy to predict with Ben Johnson with what he did in as an offensive coordinator, but I think I think Caleb Williams will now take that chance to elevate his game for what he had. It was a lot put on his shoulders, and I think now Ben Johnson takes that weight. I think with Minnesota's case, McCarthy's coming in a case where you have to kind of be put in a spot where Sam Darnold did most of the work to get them to where they were in the playoffs and half the season that they had. But I think with the tools surrounding him, with the coach that they have in Kevin, I think they're going to be in a good spot. And I think Vikings fans are going to have something to look forward to in the future. So those are my three teams, with the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions.
See, I'd go opposite because I have full faith in Jordan Love.
Okay.
And the Packers making the playoffs along with the Lions. And, again, McCarthy's a rookie quarterback, so we'll see there. But it seems like he's got a lot of what he needs around him to be successful. And, obviously the Vikings ended up being one of the best teams in the NFC a season ago. It's the Bears that I'm not sold on because, again, Caleb Williams showed some signs last year. Certainly, they're not a team that's devoid of talent. They have solid talent on that roster. I just don't know with first-year head coach and Ben Johnson how successful you're going to be right out of the gate. I'm not saying they can't get there, but it's kind of one of those I need to see it before I believe it type of things when it comes to how far the Bears will go this upcoming season.
Well, they start off, they're playing Minnesota, at Detroit, and Dallas the first three games. Those are winnable games to me. Well, Detroit, you're playing at Detroit on the road the second game, but those are two. If you win two out of those three, you're in a good spot. I'll just say that.
His next overreaction is the Chiefs' streak of 9 straight AFC West titles will come to an end. He also lists this as an overreaction.
I think it is because of the fact of how old and veteran this team is. Travis Kelce's on his last legs, but you get a healthy Pacheco back. I think we're going to get another rise of Patrick Mahomes. But I think now, as I think teams are starting to figure out how they're playing and what to do with Mahomes, but it could potentially go to 10, and we've never seen that before. So I don't think it will come to an end, so I'm going to call that an overreaction on his end.
Yeah, it's to me, it's kind of a believe it when I see it type of thing because last year, again, they were going for 3 straight Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
And last year was definitely the third best of those teams, the worst of those 3 teams, if you want to phrase it that way, and they still found a way to win. They went 15-2, but let's be honest, they weren't trying in that last game of the regular season against Denver when they played their backups. They could have realistically went 16-1, mainly on the heels of their defense. The offense wasn't explosive as it's been in years past, but they still found a way to win. And again, you see optimism with other teams within their division. Again, we'll see what Pete Carroll's able to do with the with the Raiders. I think Sean Payton's got the Broncos on the right path there, but I don't know if I'm ready to say that somebody's going to necessarily unseat the Chiefs until I actually see it happen.
I think Denver has the best shot of dethroning them, from what I saw last year with the way that Bo Nix was playing.
I'd say the Chargers probably have the best shot.
Okay.
But still, I don't think that they are quite there yet.
Okay. That's valid.
Next one, at least 3 of the Browns' current quarterbacks will start games for them this season. Again, their quarterback room includes Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, though it's likely Watson misses the entire season.
I agree. I think this is a spot-on take. We're gonna see Joe Flacco the first week. We're gonna see Kenny Pickett, and we're gonna see Shedeur Sanders. Those are my 3. That's all I've got to say.
No Dylan Gabriel?
No.
I'll probably go.
From what I've saw in the reports, they're saying that he's not a developed NFL quarterback. Quote. That says a lot too, coming from camp. But I have belief that Shedeur will get better as the season progresses, knowing that he's not starting. But I think we Browns fans will see a glimpse of what he can do on the NFL field.
Which Graziano lists this as not an overreaction, implying that he thinks he's going to see a lot, or at least 3 of those quarterbacks play games this year. I'm going to go with overreaction. I think you're only going to see 2. I agree. I think Joe Flacco is probably going to start the season, just given his veteran experience. Then at some point, you're eventually, unless you're just going on some kind of tear, which I don't see them doing that, at some point you decide to turn it over to one of your younger quarterbacks, either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, probably likely Shedeur Sanders, and then I think you got to ride with it. Right? And look, it's probably not going to be perfect. There's probably going to be mistakes and growing pains. But if you really think that, like, Shedeur is going to be the future of your franchise, you got to ride him out, right? You can't say, okay, you're going to start 2 games. Well, you didn't play that well. Let's put Kenny Pickett in there. I think once you put him in, regardless of how good or bad the season's going, let it keep going, because he's only going to learn from that. And you risk damaging young quarterbacks if you're wishy-washy with them, saying, all right, you're starting, now you're not starting, now you're starting, now you're not starting. If you're going to put Shedeur Sanders in, just ride with it. No matter how good bad the season is, just let it go and then go from there. Like that's my opinion. So I'm going to go with 2 instead of 3 in terms of Browns quarterbacks playing this year. Next one, it's the Commanders' turn in the NFC East. After they were obviously a surprise team of last year, making it all the way to the NFC Championship game, Graziano also lists this as not an overreaction.
I agree, but you got to get through the champ. You got to get through the Eagles. And honestly, they're the chance for a reason. You got to get through them. I think they have a really, really good team. The only distraction is Terry McLaurin wanting his deal, and he's being frustrated of the talks and negotiation getting a long-term deal. But then you bring in Deebo Samuel with the offense that they had last year. I'm interested to see how high Jaden Daniels' ceiling is going to be, and how creative Dan Campbell is going to be with the defensive side of the ball now that you get Von Miller to come onto the helm. But they're going to be a very fun team to watch in the NFC this season. I'm
interested to see if Jaden Daniels can avoid a sophomore slump.
Yes.
Right? Because he set the world on fire last year, and by far they were the funnest team to watch, like top to bottom last year, regardless of if you're a fan of the Commanders or not. The thing about the league, though, is they eventually catch up to you. So what you're doing and what you're able to dazzle people with in one year may not necessarily translate. I'm going to hold off a little bit. I still think, again, the Eagles are the standard there. But you can make a strong case for the Commanders. I just don't. I just hope that Daniels does not take a significant step back in year number 2 now that everybody has full season tape on him and all that kind of stuff. But, and Graziano points this out in his article, it was year number 2 when Dan Quinn took the Falcons to the Super Bowl. So there's a precedent, at least from the head coaching standpoint, that you can take a huge step in year number 2, with Quinn at the helm. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what he's going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get into a slump, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised either if he doesn't go into a slump at all and just bleeds in for what he did from year 1 going into year 2.
Last one here, Baker Mayfield will lead the Buccaneers to another division title and land a massive new contract. Graziano also lists this as not an overreaction, as the Buccaneers are going on 4 straight years having won the NFC South.
And I'm with him. It's not an overreaction. The Bucs are the best team in their division. The division, to me, is the weakest division so far in football right now. You got Mike Evans, who had a 1,000-yard reception yard and got the bonus that he was able to get, well-deserved. And then Baker Mayfield is playing the best football in his career right now. And they got the remade New Jerseys for this year, and fans are very, very excited for Tampa Bay for their Bucks. They're back from what I'm seeing.
The Falcons seem to be the only viable contenders in the NFC South this year. I think the Saints are kind of a lost cause. The Panthers looked like they were making some strides into last year. They still have a long way to go to compete for a division title. I just don't know. I don't fully know everything about Michael Penix Jr. yet, what he's going to be in his first year as a starter. Again, I think the Falcons can be competitive, but kind of similar with the Chiefs situation. I'm not ready to say somebody's going to unseat them until I see it happen. You know what I mean?
Do you think Bryce Young will take a leap in year 3?
Probably. He seemed a lot more confident when he got back from off the bench last year, played better down the stretch. So I think year number 3 lines up for him to be better. How much better, I don't know. But I think it'll certainly be the best of the 3 years we've seen.
I think so, too. And I think Canales is doing a great job of developing him and to have the offense just be balanced with him on the field. But I just don't think with the experience that the Bucs have right now, I don't see that topping them with them winning that division.
Well, as you're waiting for football season to start, there's a new Netflix series come out in just mere days that might help you bridge that gap for waiting for football to kick off here in a couple weeks. We'll talk about that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jalen Tart along with you on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra Point, Tyler Ed, Jalen's Hart with you on your Monday. Here on the game, it is time for Who Sprung a Leak, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection. And Jalen mentioned earlier, no better candidate than I feel like the Braves on Saturday, who had a 5-0 lead going into the fifth inning. Yankees would score 2 in the top of the fifth, but the Braves would get back out to another 5-run advantage, making it 7-2 before blowing it down the stretch as they would surrender 10 runs over the course of the final 4 innings to drop game number 2 to the Yankees 12-9, ultimately lose the series with 42 loss on Sunday as well. So there's your Who Sprung a Leak for the weekend.
I had a conversation with one of my buddies over the weekend who was a diehard Yankee fan, and I was telling him I was watching the game because I was working this weekend, and I was telling him, like, Joe, they're up 5-0, and he was very upset about the performance, saying that, oh, the ownership just held the team, no one cares. Next thing I know, blink of an eye, it's 7-8. And I'm like, okay. And then that home run late in the 9th inning, I believe, the second game, from the Yankees. And next thing you know,
the grand slam.
Yeah, Joe was going crazy. He was just going crazy. But I mean, I don't know. It's the Braves. They play so well. The second game when I was watching, they were playing very well. They were up 5-0. I'm like, okay, they might shut them out. And then they just let their foot off the gas, and then it just became a disaster.
Well, the bullpens had a struggle for the Braves pretty much this entire season. So that's kind of par for the course. Unfortunately, Braves still, I believe, 12.5 games back in the East right now. The Yankees only 3 games back. Toronto in the American League East there. So still a lot of baseball left played, though. I think the Braves season is kind of cooked at this point. As we wait for football to start, though, a new Netflix series coming up on August the 5th. SEC, Any Given Saturday. And here is the trailer.
Now, as a little boy, teachers would ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd say college football player.
The SEC is the greatest place in the world to play college football.
It's the SEC teams who are winning the national championship.
There's such small towns, maybe there's 30,000. But then you pull up to the stadium and there's 90,000 people.
If you play in this league, you will walk into the line.
Every kid in this state grew up dreaming to play for one of the universities.
Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, LSU. All these teams are wrapped in the fabric of those communities.
I have my life, mortgage, and everything associated with these 18 to 21-year-olds. What, am I crazy?
Each game feels like a Super Bowl for these teams.
It's a brotherhood here.
You get your ass off and finish. Take what's yours.
How crazy would that have been?
My first Florida game. It's a real moment. There's been a lot of expectations.
Garrett Nussmeier is going to have a draft decision to make.
I don't really know what the future is.
The way Diego approaches his work inspired me.
The only place in the SEC
that's not hard to play is Vanderbilt.
I heard that. That fuels me.
Whenever something goes bad, I can either feel sorry for myself or I can embrace it, attack it. I still got a job to do.
This is the biggest game in a generation.
One huge win can change your life.
This is my last chance, and I won't be denied.
So that kind of got lost in the shuffle last week when that trailer came out during SEC Media Days. But again, August 5th, that drops on Netflix Any Given Saturday, which will be an in-depth detailing and following certain teams in the SEC, which South Carolina does appear to be one of those teams. And I don't know, I'm excited to get some more behind. I love behind-the-scenes stuff anyway.
Me too.
The SEC Network does their inside stuff, which I think is pretty good, but Netflix has a great track record of really getting behind the curtain when it comes to sports, Formula One, golf, those kind of things, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the SEC.
I'm excited as well. I think this kind of reminds me of the quarterback series that they have on Netflix, but it's kind of now they're bringing it to college football. The one thing I'm very concerned, why would Georgia opted out, knowing that they won the SEC last year? They opted to not be in it.
Well, this was filmed last season.
Yes.
So it was before, you had to opt in or opt out before the season started. So Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Yeah, I remember not taking part in this. The the top dogs are not going to be in it. I'm sure they'll be featured to a degree, but just not like with in-depth, like, hey, we're embedded with this team type of thing.
And this goes in line, too, with the storylines is out because you got Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway, and Diego Pavia, who are one of the top quarterbacks right now in the SEC. So we kind of get a little bit more of an in-depth backstory as to, like, their love for the game, you know, them being leaders on their respective teams. So I'm very, very excited to see this 7-episode journey on these SEC teams this season.
Yeah, so based on the reveal poster, it looks like it's going to go behind the scenes with LSU, Florida, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Auburn. And again, you're talking about the quarterback power for at least 4 of those 5 schools. Again, last year, Peyton Thorne was quarterback at Auburn. I don't think people are too interested in him. But Garrett Nussmeier, DJ Lagway, Lenore Sellers, and Diego Pavia are 4 of the most interesting characters in all of the SEC this year when it comes to the roles that are going to play on their team. And again, going back to last year when this was taking place, it is going to be interesting to learn more about those guys, especially, you know, you heard that clip there of it was Saban saying on the McAfee show, hey, Vanderbilt's the only team you don't have to take seriously, and Pavia saying, hey, that fueled me, as he obviously went out there and shut a lot of people up, that upset of Alabama. So I think he's going to be one of those guys people are going to be interested to learn even more about, as he's already very open and out there when it comes to what he says in the public space.
And I'm interested to see more of him. I mean, the first time I saw him was the Alabama game when they beat Alabama last year, and I was like, okay, this guy's pretty good. And then in the offseason, I'm like, okay, they're really talking about him. So I'm very, very interested to see what he is going to be able to do this season alone, but also, you know, the other quarterbacks as well, DJ Lagway from Florida, Lenore Sellers from right here in South Carolina, and Garrett Nussmeier, who is, a lot of people are saying, is the best quarterback in the country in the SEC. I'm interested to see what leap will he take from the season he had last year.
I imagine that there's going to be a lot put into last year's South Carolina LSU game.
Yep.
Game day was here, tight game, controversy at the end. So I'm interested to see how Netflix tells the story of that game and the reactions on both sides. Because, again, it sounds like they're in the locker room of these teams post-game, and how that looked after the game. That might be interesting to see.
Me too. I'm interested to see, you know, what was said that we probably didn't hear, and we can, you know, come back and react to it on another day.
Yep. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, coming to August 5th, SEC any given Saturday on Netflix. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. I drank a lot of Dr. Pepper last week. What was your go-to beverage as a child? With that coming up next as the Extra Point wraps up. Hour number 2 up next here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra Point. It's Head, Jalen Tart wrapping up hour number 2 on your Monday here on the game. As I mentioned last week at SEC Media Days, I had all the Dr. Pepper I could want at my disposal, and I did drink a lot. I had to offset it with a ton of water this past weekend. I was never really like a Dr. Pepper drinker growing up.
Okay.
That's something I came across later on in years, teenage to adult years. I now feel like I was missing out as a kid by not drinking it, but it's not something that was like, because again, when you're a kid, it's what your parents buy.
Yeah.
Right? Like if your parents buy like cola or if they buy like Sprite, like those kind of things are typically what you drink. And I guess, I don't know, my parents just didn't buy Dr. Pepper, so I didn't drink it a whole lot and had to kind of discover it on my own later in life. What was kind of, it didn't have to be a soda necessarily, but what was your go-to beverage as a kid? Like what were you primarily drinking?
So I will always be with my dad a lot growing up, and he always bought Tahitian Treat.
What is that?
Tahitian Treat is kind of like a fruit punch type soda. A lot of people may know what it is. It's in the stores or whatnot. Tahitian Treat is kind of like a fruit punch type soda from the islands.
Okay.
And he would drink Red Rock. A lot of people, Red Rock's not made anymore, but that's kind of like a strawberry off-branded type soda that you could drink. But I was always the Coke guy. I like Coke and whatnot.
Okay.
The soda, so to speak. But Tahitian Treats, if it's really, really cold, especially if you freeze it into like a slush in a can, really, really good.
I looked it up. I've seen this before.
Okay.
It looks like it's bottled by the same people that bottle Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
It's got that same kind of bottle design. I've seen that before. I've never tried it. I'm funny with fruit punch.
Okay.
I'll tell you a specific story. When I was in 6th grade, we did one of those Coke fundraisers where you sell like 24-pack little cases of Coke products, and my parents, as part of the fundraiser, bought like 3 or 4 things, like a thing of Coke, a thing of Sprite, and my mom bought a thing of Minute Maid fruit punch, and she either bought 1 or 2 of them. It was a lot. And my school had a rule in middle school of like you couldn't bring like Coke type things, like those kind of sodas for lunch, but for some reason like fruit punch was okay. And I drank a Minute Maid fruit punch with lunch every single day for what felt like probably 2 months. And now I can't drink fruit punch anymore.
So after that, you just don't drink it. You just don't.
I soured myself on it. Like,
Okay.
It was good, but if you continue to eat or drink the same thing over and over again, you get like the flavor fatigue, and it makes you resent it, right? Like it makes you almost like, thinking about it right now, it's almost like making me feel nauseous thinking about drinking it again because I drank it so much.
No, I feel you. So that's how you feel with honestly too, I'll say this as well. Like I grew on Mountain Dew.
Okay.
That kind of grew on me in my teenage years with Mountain Dew. It's really good. I like it.
Mountain Dew is the gateway energy drink.
Yeah.
Right? Because it has the highest caffeine content of any soda, and you feel there's a reason why the joke of drinking Mountain Dew and playing video games all night is real, because it'll keep you awake.
Yeah.
And we all did that at some point in our lives. A big Mountain Dew fan myself. Getting away from sodas, Kool-Aid, right?
Okay.
Like Kool-Aid was big for me, and I say Kool-Aid. It was always the off-brand. My mom wouldn't buy like actual Kool-Aid packets. It would be like Flavor Aid or whatever the store brand of it was. But like every day as a kid, we had a picture of some blue, red, orange, whatever kind of Kool-Aid to drink.
My off-brand is the Country Time Lemonade.
Okay.
When I make dinner or when I was helping my mom with dinner, I would always make the lemonade in the pitcher. And I enjoyed doing that. So I was just like, okay, like I know how to make lemonade, so this is what I like. And ever since then, I like lemonade. I was never a big tea guy until recently, like a year ago, because I didn't like the taste. But then I think for me, it's like, depending upon who makes it, if it's really, really sweet, I'll drink it.
Well, so, and I've drank sweet tea my entire life. That may be actually more of a go-to beverage than anything else. But I'm a firm believer in the sweeter the better.
Me too.
There are some places that don't put enough sugar into their tea, which like I want to taste the sugar when I drink sweet tea. And my theory, I feel like Mexican restaurants actually do it the best. I feel like most Mexican restaurants, I can't confirm this, but I feel like based on the taste, most of them put more sugar in, or they use maybe they use pure cane sugar. I don't know, but it always tastes sweeter at those places.
I do like the southern the southern style restaurant sweet tea as well.
Those are always good.
Those are going to be good. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that this week and come back next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully to give you my thoughts on that.
I've been to a bunch of places around here. I haven't ran into any locally that I feel like don't do sweet tea justice. So, because again, for me, the more sugar, the better.
Yes.
That'll probably hurt me later on in life, but
me, lemonade. If you put real lemon juice in there, like a tad bit of lemon juice in there, yes, I personally would like it. But hey, if it's sweet and it's great with some ice, perfect.
I love good natural lemonade, but I do fine with the packets too.
Me too.
I will buy the flavor packets so you can just dump in a bottle of water, shake up, and that tastes perfectly fine. A little bitter, a little tart, but does the job for me.
Yeah, as long as if it is that the drink is refreshing when it's hot. It is hot in South Carolina.
It's very hot right now.
If it's refreshing, yes, I'll drink it.
I guess PSA, you should always drink water no matter what. That's the most important beverage that I think we're all consuming at a higher clip right now because I did the weather report this morning. It is going to be 99 degrees today.
So how many Dr. Pepper did you drink?
I think either 6 or 7 last week.
A day?
I drank at least one every day. There were 2 days where I feel like I think I drank 2. So I guess it'd be 6.
Okay. And they're coming out with all these new flavors now with Dr. Pepper. They have the strawberry. Yeah.
They had strawberries and cream. They had cherry.
I'm not a big cherry guy.
They had the diet and the zero sugar versions, but there was a lot of flavors they didn't have, like the coconut or whatever. So it wasn't a full compliment, but it's free. You can't complain.
No, I feel you. And, I like, Diet Dew is really good. Diet Dr. Pepper. I had that yesterday, and it was surprisingly good. So
because it's the same. What makes Dr. Pepper is not the sugar, it's the pepper flavor, which when you take the sugar out, doesn't really change. So.
Is there a drink that you would try that you have not tried yet?
Oh, man. I think I've tried just about everything at this point. I can't think of anything. I'm usually pretty open to trying different stuff.
Shout out to the Hornets for winning the Summer League over the weekend, by the way.
Maybe the only title they ever win, but there you go. All right, Jalen, we'll see you next week.
All right, man. See you next week, bro.
Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, getting back into the Landon Duckworth commitment that happened on Friday. That's up next here on the game. Welcome in 11 o'clock Monday morning Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Just Tyler and Wes today. Chris doing something. Didn't tell us what he was doing, but he'll be out a couple days this week. We'll get him back in here tomorrow.
I didn't even know he was going to be out.
I didn't know either until yesterday when he was like, hey, I'm out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm like, all right. See you Tuesday and Thursday, I guess.
He's out Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
That's what he said. He was asking if Jack Tavius could fill in for him, but I was like, well, Jack's out Friday too. So everybody's taking time off right now. Bill's out this week. Chris, you said you still got a few more days coming up. So
my days are done.
Your days are done? All right.
Yeah,
you're locked in.
Last week was my...
Okay, all right.
That was my few days I was referencing. So
we're locked in for football now.
I mean, it's
Everybody
here,
else,
man.
not so much.
It's here.
It's here. I mean, 41 days from Carolina football, 10 days from the Hall of Fame game, as much as you don't believe in it.
Doesn't count.
33 days away from week 0.
Not even listening to that. But we're like 2 weeks from camp.
2 weeks from camp, yeah. It's all happening fast. With Birdies with Beamers next week, I believe, if what Jack told me this morning was correct. Yeah, we're off and running, man. We're getting there.
Be here before we know it. It always, in a weird way, it kind of flies by, I feel like, especially the older you get. So, yeah, we'll be, soon enough, we'll be talking about week 1 of camp. Then soon enough, we'll be talking about camp grinding by and just waiting on an opponent to talk about. And then next thing we know, man, we'll be off and running.
Well, we got a lot of things to talk about this morning, including what happened with recruiting on Friday night. But may as well go ahead and start things off, as always, with our 41-day countdown trivia question. You still hold the lead by 2 full points over Chris after neither one of you got the question right on Friday. Are you ready for your 41-day trivia question?
I am. Can you first set this up, though, by telling me kind of where we're going with this?
So we are going to go back to 1941 this time.
Oh, God, Tyler.
But I feel like this is a question you should be able to answer.
See, I don't even like you saying that, but
all right.
I didn't do any research because I thought you might go jersey number again.
No, I'm trying to switch it up. I couldn't come up with a good enough jersey number question, so I went back to 1941. Now this is going to test your South Carolina history as a whole. In 1941, South Carolina was coached by the second all-time wins leader in South Carolina football history. Who was the coach of that team?
Golly, man.
Spurrier's won.
The old heads are about to be ticked.
He coached for a while here, too.
God. How long did he coach here?
7 or 15 years. 15 years over the course of 15 seasons over the course of 17 years.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps or not.
It's the wrong era, but I can't just say nothing. Carlin?
No. Carlin was from 75 to 81. This coach was from 1938 to 1955.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rex Enright. 64 wins. He was actually his win percentage was actually under 500. He was 64 and 69, but coached over 15 seasons. I imagine a couple seasons missed there because of the war. But yeah, he coached that team back in 1941. So there you go. By the way, you know where Beamer is on the all-time list for Carolina right now?
Probably has moved up pretty well, actually.
He is 8th.
I was about to say, he's top 10?
Yeah, he's top 10. He is 4 behind Lou Holtz, who has 33 wins right now. But again, he has the most wins through 4 years of any coach in Carolina history. And again, there's no other coach inside the top 13 that only has 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So going pretty well. Turning in the right direction.
Enright.
There you go.
I know the name. I just could not come up with it.
Yeah, and again, he coached here for a while. They weren't crazy successful when he was here, but still a second in terms of overall wins, right behind Steve Spurrier. All right, now that that's out of the way, still no points awarded. It's time to get to what everybody's really clamoring to talk about, because this happened on Friday night.
How long we are here for? After a lot of prayer, long talk, kept it, dog. I'm proud or not that I beat the team and I did in football career. The University of South Carolina.
There was on Friday night, 4-star quarterback out of Jackson, Alabama, Landon Duckworth, recommits to the Gamecocks after committing right at about 2 years ago. Opened his commitment up, and South Carolina stayed in the running there, but reaffirms his commitment. Again, still a lot of time between now and December, but obviously a big deal that we've been anxiously waiting for these past handful of weeks.
Yeah, nice touch there with the theme. That's Jeopardy, right?
That is Jeopardy.
Yeah, nice touch there with that. We anticipated this on, the latter part of last week. Thought it was going this direction. Looked like it was headed that way. But to just get it locked in, obviously, is a huge deal for South Carolina. And like I said, he had kind of just emerged as their top target at the quarterback position. And, we started hearing that even when they were still involved with 2 or 3 other guys. Now, you're very careful about reporting that early on when they're involved with, multiple guys at a position. But I think, it was kind of interesting. The original offer was sent out by Dow Loggins and Jody Wright. And because Jody has a lot of ties to Alabama, which obviously is where Landon's from. Well, he decommits. There's a new offensive coordinator, which obviously means new quarterbacks coach. And you didn't, for a while, you really didn't know if this was going to be a fit. And then, interestingly enough, not only did Landon really start to connect with Shula on Landon's end, but I think, especially at the quarterback position, that's got to be mutual, And so it really, to me, seemed like also that Shula, from his end, started to connect with Landon just in terms of kind of that synergy and, hey, this is a guy I really want to coach. And so he emerged as the priority target. That didn't mean that this was going to be easy. They still obviously had to beat Auburn in the end. They had to beat out Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. That, for a stretch, it really appeared that that's probably where he was going to go. But Carolina hung in there. Got him back on campus in the spring. That was a huge visit to get this thing moving in the right direction. Then got him back for an official visit. Then he did the unofficial to Auburn, unofficial to South Carolina, and finally made the decision on Friday night. And obviously, huge gift for South Carolina. They get their guy again, and you're just talking about stacking talent in that quarterback room.
Yeah, of course, we hope Sellers goes out there, has a phenomenal season, which could potentially springboard him in to the NFL. And when you're looking at next year, and again, not star ratings don't mean everything, but if you're having a quarterback room that consists of Aaron Nolan, Cutter Woods, and Landon Duckworth competing for your spot, you feel like whoever ends up winning that battle is probably going to be a really, really good choice at quarterback. Now, again, you start doing quarterback math years down the line, doesn't mean all those guys are necessarily going to stay around, but you're doing what you have to do to survive in today's world of college football by consistently bringing in quarterback talent seemingly almost every single year, if not every single other year, to make sure you are not looking at a depleted room at any point in time.
Yeah, and that's a position, frankly, if you kind of zoom out, your quarterbacks, like any position, but certainly a quarterback, there are no guarantees. And so even you can go back, look at the blue chip guys, the 4 stars, 5 stars, pick a random year, click through, and tell me which guys panned out, which guys didn't. On a good year, you're talking about a 50% pan out rate, I feel like. And that's among the top quarterbacks. So to me, that's why you have to just stack guys. I was talking to Charles Power, who does the rankings at On3, now Rivals, and, he's just very high on the upside of a Landon Duckworth, but he also acknowledged, hey, there are already signs that Cutter Woods could outplay his ranking. This is a kid that was kind of a mid 3-star guy, mid to high 3-star, and already a lot of great local buzz here about what Cutter has done through his first spring in Columbia. So can Cutter continue that? Can Nolan take a big step forward as he gets more and more comfortable in this offense? But then you bring in Duckworth, a guy who just has elite athleticism. I mean, watch his dunk reel where he's doing windmill dunks, making it look effortless. How many quarterbacks in the country are out there doing that? I mean, it just does not happen. So, take the athleticism, but then you add in the ability to throw the football. There's some development to be had there, but I think much like with Lenoris, one thing we always said about him is, hey, he physically has the ability to throw the football, which is different than, being completely developed as a passer, but also is very different than, they're going to have to learn to throw the football. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, there are some passing game things that he will need to continue to develop, but that's usually the case with almost all high school quarterbacks. In a lot of ways, you don't even want them to be entirely developed. Like, you want to be able to work with them and there to be some upside here to go, and that's certainly the case with Landon. One thing that was brought up to me, too, hey, Shula's had success with guys. Like, there's a reason why he targeted the kid with this skill set. He's had success with guys like that. And the other part is Landon Duckworth is a winner. He has a state championship in football, state championship in basketball, and he was part of their 4x100 in track. State championship in all three. So this guy is one of those kids who just finds a way to get it done, and I think that's worth acknowledging too.
And again, they beat out Auburn for him on Friday night. Again, nothing's done until pen meets paper coming up in December, or however they do it. I'm sure it's electronic now. What does the next couple of months look like in terms of retaining and making sure that he stays locked in for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, never say never. I get the impression he's pretty locked in to South Carolina. Obviously, some of that just, hey, keep doing what you're doing on the field. You want to have a good season. We know how this works. Seasons are going to have their ups and downs. Like, there'll be times where Carolina probably looks unstoppable. There'll be times when everybody's ready to panic. That's how football works in a long season. Keep doing what you're doing. They'll keep recruiting him in some ways, just like he's uncommitted. The interesting thing about quarterback recruiting is that, teams kind of settle in on their guy, and then, like we already saw, the writing was on the wall with Auburn a few weeks ago when they took another quarterback. So, for the most part, teams kind of get their guy, and then that's their guy. So, could something else pop up? Could a school say, hey, we're going to make a run at Landon? Absolutely. You never say never. But I do think, especially considering how late this commitment was in terms of quarterbacks, that and he really took his time this time. I think really good chance that he follows through and signs with South Carolina.
Well, he is certainly the highlighted 2026 class that Coach Beamer continues to bring in as we approach the early signing day coming up in December. Speaking of quarterbacks, Lenora Sellers earning some high accolades with the All-SEC team on Friday. We'll dive into that and the media poll coming up as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls on your Monday on The Game.
All right, guys, you know what? This show brought to you by our friends over at Firehouse. Almost lunchtime. Go ahead, log on, start looking at your lunch order. FirehouseSubs.com, or do what we do. Get the Firehouse Subs app, create an account, get points every single time you order. Of course, maybe you want to go with your favorite. Go ahead, lock that in. Or maybe you want to try something different. How about the new classic barbecue triple stack? I say new, but really it's coming back since, I guess, about this time last year. It is piled high with slow smoked brisket, honey ham, smoked turkey, topped with melted cheddar, sweet and tangy slaw, smoky barbecue sauce, and mayo, all, as always, served hot on a toasted sub roll. If you want to try something similar but a little bit different, try the new Carolina Gold version that has a mustard-based barbecue sauce on there. Regardless, try that. Get your favorites. It's going to be great either way at Firehouse Subs and firehousesubs.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Howard and Wes with you on your Monday here on the game. Coming up on Thursday, Jay and Terry going to be out at the Nest at 1331 Gadsden Street hanging out for the postgame show from 3 until 6. Go by and hang out with those guys again coming up on Thursday. We're talking quarterbacks. Already discussed Landon Duckworth's commitment to South Carolina there in the last segment. Now we turn our attention to the current quarterback, that being Lenore Sellers, who on Friday earned the accolade of first team all SEC when the media voting came back from SEC media days. And I will say I was surprised that the general consensus had Sellers as the best overall quarterback, not doubting that he could be. I just didn't know if everybody was going to feel that same way about it. I thought Garrett Nussmeier may get the nod and we might see Sellers on the second team.
Yeah, you know, it speaks a ton to just how far or how different the perception is now compared to this time last year. And I do think it's been a really good offseason for Lenoris, too, just in terms of people taking stock of what he did the final half of last year. Like, I think if even like going into the Clemson game last year, if you did a similar poll and you said but only put returning quarterbacks on there, I don't think Lenore Sellers it would be number one among the media. Like, I think the offseason has done a great job of educating people on just how talented he is. Now, I do think in terms of like the guys that would be in the running for this, there's been a little bit of pushback from people on Arch. Like, you have the two just highly competing sides of, oh, he's Arch Manning. Like, this guy is this guy's special. Like, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in recent memory. And then the other side pushing back, well, he hasn't done anything yet, so let's let him do something first. And those two sides probably maybe cancel each other out a little bit in terms of something like this. And then, so really, you're probably talking about Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway. Pavia is a fun story, but I feel this is mean, but I feel like they don't quite take Pavia seriously in terms of like top quarter. Like, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, he's a gritty winner. He'll make plays for you. He doesn't really quite get talked about, especially because there's a little bit, fair or not, there's a little bit of NFL element. Like, Diego Pavia is not going to be a high projected draft pick.
Sure.
He just doesn't have that size, the tools that they look for.
Yeah, Sellers, Nussmeier, and Arch Manning could all realistically be first-round picks coming up next spring.
Yes, so you have some generated hype because of that as well. Am I forgetting anybody? I don't think I am. Like, I feel like those are kind of the ones, at least in terms of that have done something.
Yeah, at least in the SEC, there's a lot of there's a lot of buzz around a guy like Mateer. But again, that's coming over from Washington State, so we don't know what he's going to be in the SEC yet. But again, there's the vast majority of teams in the SEC are bringing in or starting new quarterbacks to some degree this year. So it's a smaller group to pick from in terms of returning production. And again, I fully expected Sellers to be somewhere in the top three here, likely two. But it is cool to see that they are giving him that nod of being number one, Nussmeier number two, and then again Arch Manning, which is what his potential upside can be, coming in as third team there, which is neat to see. Dylan Stewart also makes it on the first team when it comes to defense, obviously coming off the edge there, and then Jalen Kilgore on the second team when it comes to defense for the SEC as well.
Yeah, and I think a guy like Mateer, like the SEC is such a I think it permeates into the media as well. It's such a like us against the rest of college football. Even if you're unbiased, like you even if you try to be unbiased, you have a little bit of that just, SEC. I feel like with Mateer, like people kind of want to see him do it against SEC competition before you're going to like put him on a pedestal, unless he was just unstoppable, at Washington, which he was good at Washington State. But he was good, but I don't think he quite lives up to that level, that you would put him on that pedestal. But the other guys, man, I mean, Dylan, no shock there. And this just continues. I wrote this a couple months ago. I was starting to hear about or from some of the NFL guys that I talked to, hey, Kilgore is next guy up on this South Carolina roster. Beyond Lenoris, beyond Dylan, who everybody on the planet knows about now that follows college football or follows the NFL draft. Kilgore is the guy the NFL teams have started to circle that they're saying, we're going to have a deep dive on this guy going into his third year. If he performs, and that's always the big caveat, like they've got to go do it, but they have him circled as could be your next guy that's probably, I would say right now, realistically, maybe in your TJ Sanders, Demetrius Knight potential. Like, I don't know if Jalen would be like a first rounder, but kind of in that next tier.
Sure.
If he has a big year, they love his versatility. They love the fact that he can play nickel. They love the fact that potentially, and I was surprised to hear this a little bit, but potentially even being a big corner at the NFL level. But also, we know he can play safety. So has the versatility, playmaking ability that those NFL teams covet, along with the size. And he's shown he can cover from that nickel spot despite that size. So good to see the SEC media kind of recognize who he is as a player.
Sure.
I do think some of that, Tyler, speaks to the kind of rising perception of the South Carolina just program as a whole right now. Typically, you get like on these lists, your superstars get listed, but then you get your good players from the best teams, I feel like, fill out the rest of this list.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And again, you got the Georgias, Texas, and Alabama as well represented on this list. Good to see a couple Gamecocks make it onto these lists as well. And again, we'll see if they can live up to that as the season rolls along. South Carolina also getting a lot of love in the overall media poll as well, which we'll dive into coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Monday on the Game.
Our friends over at Game Day Men's Health can help you as a man reclaim your vitality by optimizing hormone levels. They specialize in TRT, or testosterone replacement therapy, which will help boost your energy and strength. And they're a lot different than other clinics that do similar things. They have in-house labs that can deliver your results in just 15 minutes. They're conveniently located in Northeast Columbia near I-77 and Two Notch Road. Comfortable man cave style clinics with TVs and refreshments while you wait. Also great, they don't use any long-term contracts. Flexible plans tailored to your needs. TRT tests available to check your levels with absolutely no obligation, and then ongoing monitoring committed to your success with expert guidance. You can get started by going to gamedaymenshealth.com/North-Columbia. Again, located just off I-77, or give them a call, 803-265-3161.
Orthopedic injuries require easy access to specialty care. That's why we now
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Wes with you on your Monday here on the game. Looking back over what came out Friday afternoon on the heels of Media Day with the all SEC teams being announced. Again, Lenore Sellers making first team all SEC quarterback, Dylan Stewart first team all SEC defensive line, and Jalen Kilgore making second team all SEC when it comes to defensive backs. South Carolina getting a lot of love with the all-SEC team, as well as the media poll as they come in fifth. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU 1 through 4, Carolina in fifth, then Florida, Ole Miss, A&M, and Tennessee rounding out the top 10. And again, maybe a little bit surprised that some people even put them this high in the media poll, considering all the talent they lost. I do think Sellers is a big catalyst for why they're so high. But again, still once again kind of thought to be in that mix of teams that are probably going to be in the conversation for the playoffs based off of what this poll says.
Yeah, man. And when you have a quarterback, you have a chance. When you have a potentially elite quarterback, then you really have a chance to win every game. And that doesn't mean you're going to win them all, but in every single game you go into, you're going to feel like you have a shot. And, you can look, I think, first of all, I think we almost have to recategorize where things are in the SEC because it's such a big conference that, in the past, if you say, you're going to be fifth, that's kind of like, all right, we're middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you said you're fifth or even sixth, seventh, eighth, you're saying you probably have a roster that at least the media, the media is terrible at predicting these things, let's be honest.
Sure.
But you're saying, hey, we believe this roster has a chance to compete for the playoff. And, it's harder than ever to win the SEC. But because of the expansion of the playoff, it's easier than ever to get into the playoff itself. And so, I think there's a great deal of respect for South Carolina presented by this place on the list. And, you look at it, man. So, let's see. Carolina, obviously, fifth. Texas, 1. South Carolina doesn't play Texas.
Nope.
Georgia, 2. You don't play Georgia. Now, obviously, you got Bama and LSU. But then the team after you, Florida, you don't play them either. So, it's obviously, it's not an easy schedule. That's not what I'm saying by any means. But it could be, at least if you're using this as your guide, it could be far worse. And, we'll see obviously what, I think people are sleeping on Ole Miss a little bit right now. That's a scary game. A&M is always going to be difficult, and those are the two schools after Florida on this list. You don't play Tennessee, which is next. Oklahoma feels to be like a little bit of that team that is, even though they're in the bottom half of this thing, I feel like people are starting to maybe buy into Oklahoma bouncing back this year a little bit.
They should be better than a year ago. That's not a high bar to clear. How good that is, we don't know. But I worry about them more than I did a season ago.
Yeah. Well, but would you have said that at this point a season ago?
No, I wouldn't have.
So who? So here's the difficult thing to do. Who in this top half is going to just have a terrible year? And who in this bottom half is going to surprise everybody? Because there will probably be at least one team in each of those categories, right? Like, I don't feel like we've heard a thing about Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri is just floating right along. Their schedule, and I say this without even looking at their schedule, because it's every year.
Yeah,
their schedule allows them to stack some wins and stay in the picture maybe longer than they should. But they've been a thorn in South Carolina's side, man.
They have, and Missouri avoids Georgia. I think they avoid LSU. It's the same teams they played last year. Their non-conference slate's pretty easy, so they stand to certainly be a team that's maybe a little bit better than you thought in terms of overall record. I guess Oklahoma, as far as like the bottom half of teams that could jump up and surprise you, I'd probably have to say them just because, again, I think they're going to be better than they were a year ago. How much better, we'll see. I mean, what? I guess Tennessee is 8th. Oklahoma's 9th. I don't know. Could A&M kind of fall back down a little bit? They always kind of find a way to end up being 8-4. That's kind of their staple since they've been in the SEC. Could they take a step back? I would tend to think not because they've got a lot of good returning talent. Marcel Reed, we'll see what he is as second-year starter. Maybe it is Ole Miss. Maybe Austin Simmons isn't what he's built to be, which is certainly a lot as of right now. Maybe he's just, not great. They did lose a lot of talent from that team a year ago. Maybe they fall back down a little bit. I don't know. It's tough because, again, we talk about this so much. That middle area of the SEC is so fluid, right? I mean, Carolina believably could have been anywhere between 5th to 10th based on the perception of the media around this team. And I think you would have looked at it and said, okay, I could see how people would come to that conclusion. So it's kind of razor thin when you talk about that middle area of who could be the best and who could be the worst.
Yeah, like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if everybody had Ole Miss as their sleeper to go to the playoff last year, and really not just go. I think they were a sleeper. They were probably a favorite to go to the playoff last year and a sleeper to win the whole thing. More accurately, I could see Ole Miss though it just being a year delayed and them actually being. I could see them being better. If their quarterback situation is still good, because Lane is he's gonna get a lot out of that position, and I think you're talking about a spot there where, I don't want to say there's more upside than a guy that went in the first round last year, but there could potentially be more upside at that position, and or you get the other side of it, if he turns the ball over a lot and he's just not ready, then. They take a step back. But Ole Miss also, I don't know, man. They just feel to me a little bit like South Carolina in a sense that they're maybe a little bit better when they're playing that underdog role. And, the spotlight was on them last year. I don't know if they necessarily dealt with it that well in terms of winning games they were supposed to, in quotes, win. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I mean, LSU is sitting there. They've got some national buzz. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if anybody above South Carolina on this list just fell on their face. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Those are 4 good rosters, man.
Yeah. In fact, I really wanted to put LSU in my top 2. I had them 3 because just for some reason – Brian Kelly has found a way to underachieve the past couple of years despite having really talented rosters. But again, they should be still in that mix, certainly late in the season to be in consideration for a playoff berth. And that game that South Carolina's going to have in Baton Rouge is obviously going to be a huge one. But yeah, those seem to be the most kind of like ironclad teams that even, at their worst, they should still be somewhere around 8 to 9 wins. I mean, again, I'm really turning the quarter on Florida a lot. Again, they ended the season strong last year. Lagway, if he can stay healthy as a dude, obviously, they might be that team. And again, they're 6th, so they're being thought of pretty well. But I think they're a team that could really surprise a lot of people with what they're going to do this season.
Yeah, and their perception, the perception of who they are, changed quite a bit as the year progressed last year. And so I think there's a lot of believers in Lagway. I mean, this kid is potentially very special, too. And so I think there are so many questions throughout the league at the quarterback position with so many newcomers. If you have a guy coming back and if you have a guy that everybody is kind of bought into, then, you're going to have a chance. And, so we'll see. Florida's it's just very difficult. They're right there in the middle, like you said, man. It's very difficult to predict on any of these teams right there in that kind of middle ground in the SEC because a lot of times whether you have a good year or a bad year could, come down to 5 plays.
Sure.
It literally comes down to do you win these close games or not? Do you split the close games? Do you win one you shouldn't? Do you lose one you shouldn't? And, and then you kind of go from there. But I don't know, man. It's going to be fun. I think if, back to your point on LSU, I mean, Brian Kelly was hired to go win a title.
Yes.
they've won a lot of games, but if this is a year where you have Nussmeier coming back, there was a lot of talk at various points last year about him being a very highly drafted quarterback. Comes back instead. The heat, the seat will get very hot if he does not win it this year.
I believe all of the three prior coaches, Saban, Miles, and Orgeron, all won a title within their first 4 seasons. Orgeron got his in his 4th. Miles got his in his 3rd. Let me see when Nick Saban got his. But it was all within that 4-year window of getting to LSU. And I think if we're listing overall success as coaches, I'd put Kelly right behind Nick Saban in front of Miles and in front of Ed Orgeron in terms of who I think's the better overall coach. By the way, Saban's was in his 4th year as well. So the history tells you this should be the year. But again, I haven't liked the way that they've found a way to kind of shoot themselves in the foot the past couple seasons.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair for sure. Who did you have Texas 1 or did you have Georgia 1?
I had Texas 1, I had Georgia 2, LSU 3. I believe I had Alabama 4th. Let me check here. I had South Carolina at 5th as well. A lot of it was pretty in line with what I did here. Alabama 4th, South Carolina 5th, Florida 6th, I had Oklahoma 7th. But yeah, pretty close to what I had.
You know who has, just glancing at the like first team, second team, third team, Auburn has more. Auburn's name pops up more on the list of players than you would think for a team that is in the bottom third-ish of the projections.
A lot of individual talent that they just can't quite get to mesh together the way that they need to. And for them, and Jackson Arnold owned up to it last week saying, hey, I'm the reason I was bad at Oklahoma last year. They're putting a lot of stock in him living up to that billing coming out of high school. We'll see if it was just the situation he was in last year or if it was actually him in terms of why he struggled at Oklahoma. And, Freeze is feeling the heat, so it better work out for him. Or they're turning over to Deuce Knight early in the season. Yeah, no, I'll say this, man.
I do think that scheme probably will unlock some of his potential. Now, Auburn's just a crazy place, man. Like, there's always drama there. Yep. So does the rest of it mesh together? I don't know, and that can certainly affect your QB play too. I do think just from a purely scheme standpoint, though, this should be a better fit for him.
We'll see what happens there. News over the weekend of several Gamecocks at the next level getting their paydays. We'll dive into that coming up next as we wrap up the hour. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Wes on your Monday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Wes wrapping up today's edition of the show. Wes, do you still have the contacts of all the guys that got drafted for South Carolina this past year? Still got them on your phone?
Unless they've changed numbers, yes.
Well, if you need some money, I think you can hit up about all these guys because all 5 Carolina draft picks have now signed deals with their new teams, and some of these are pretty lofty, including Nicky Minwari, of course, the first guy off the board, 35th overall pick, $11,600,000 for a 4-year deal with the Seahawks, fully guaranteed, by the way, the first ever 35th overall pick with a fully guaranteed 4-year deal to be a big part of that defense out there in Seattle this year.
Yeah, man, you add up what that defense, just with those 3 guys, will now make, and it's guaranteed. Pretty insane. And this is a new trend. You know, the second round picks getting either fully guaranteed money or getting a lot more fully guaranteed money to where it's close to 100% of their contract. You know, I think TJ and D Knight both did very, very well for themselves as well in terms of that. It used to be, man, there was not a lot of, I mean, it's a lot of money, but still, percentage-wise, you know, the NFL was known for, like, having all these non-guaranteed contracts.
Sure.
And now, you know, in terms of players having the power and setting a precedent as well, you have seen it shift to where if you're a first-round pick, now a second-round pick, you are able to get a much heftier percentage of that money being guaranteed. So awesome for those guys. And Tyler, none of the 3 were super highly recruited athletes.
Nope.
Is the crazy part.
Yeah. Again, we've talked a lot about Eamon, you know, just up the road and somebody that, you know, maybe came along a little bit late when it came to his, you know, recognition from programs around the country, thrust into a starting role pretty quickly at Carolina and, you know, never really left the field over the course of those 3 years and obviously ended up being one of the best safeties in his class. And I brought this point up earlier. I think when you look at South Carolina's draft class from this past year, it is the perfect selling point for Beamer and his coaching staff on the recruiting trail. Like, hey, you can come in here as just a regular recruit out of high school. We can get you to the point of being a first or second round draft pick like Eamon Wari, or you can come in here as somebody that, you know, has 1 year less eligibility and maybe you've had, you know, some good seasons at a G5 school or whatever, but you can come in, we can develop you where you need to be and go out there and be one of the best at your individual spots in the SEC like a Kennard was or like a Demetrius Knight was. So it really emphasizes just the varying types of talent that can come in here and be successful at South Carolina that we saw this past year.
Yeah, and, you know, if I'm them, I'm pushing the development part. I'm sure they are. I'm pushing the, hey, man, this is not just life-changing money. You know, if somebody gives you $1 million, that's life-changing. This is generational money if you're smart with it. And so I do wonder and I do hope that some of the NIL education, you know, I know some of this is going to go in one ear, out the other, but some of the education, some of the fact that you are now a professional even when you're in college.
Yep.
I do hope that will lead to a higher percentage of the guys making this life-changing money, knowing kind of how to handle it, what to do with it. You can live in a pretty extravagant lifestyle and still save your money. And if you're young enough, I mean, if you have $10 million guaranteed, man,
yep,
you can invest half of it and still live a great lifestyle.
Sure.
And then just be set for your life, your kid's life, your kid's life.
Well, and this, you know, again, Knight, one of the last ones to finalize his deal, $9 million, 80% guaranteed with the Bengals. And we know his story well, you know, talked about door dashing at Charlotte a couple years ago to make ends meet with his wife and his kids and all that kind of stuff. And now to have this kind of guaranteed payday for the next handful of years where he's likely going to be in that starting rotation for their linebacking core this year. Just an incredible story and a great, not ending, but a great next step in it as he goes into the NFL.
Yeah, man, could not be happier for a guy than I am for him. Having him here on the show, too, early on when he first got here, man, I don't know about you, but I was just thinking this guy's built different just in terms of the personality, the leadership ability, the way he carries himself. Now, at the time, we were going, like, I hope he can back it up on the field. Like, he's the type of guy you pull for.
Sure.
And, man, he certainly did all that and then some. I had kind of high hopes for him, but I would say he outplayed even, what I thought he might be as a player when he got here and we started hearing all those positive reports. So couldn't be happier for him. Man, funny enough, real quick, I also remember driving out right when he had gotten the offer to Marion, South Carolina, and meeting and interviewing TJ Sanders, talking to his coach about the upside of this kid. But that's the thing about upside. You never know if the guy's going to reach it or not.
Sure.
He certainly got pretty close to it in terms of his college career.
Absolutely. He's got $10.5 million, almost all guaranteed for 4 years with the Bills as well. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show with myself up next on your Monday here on The Game.
All right, folks, before I get out of here, let me tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. Check out more information on them right now, integratedmediainc.com, where you can get an idea of some of their great services.